You know, what if I told you that a single battle, fought almost 1,000 years ago, is secretly hiding on your dinner plate? It sounds a little strange, right? But its consequences are baked right into the very words we speak every single day. Let's dig in.
So, have you ever stopped to think about this? Why do we call them cows when they're in the field, but when it's on our plate, it's beef? It's the same for pigs becoming pork or sheep becoming mutton. It seems like just a weird quirk of the English language, but it's not a quirk at all. It's actually the ghost of a 1,000-year-old invasion.
Okay, here's the answer. For centuries after the year 1066, England basically had two languages running at the same time. You had the Anglo-Saxon farmers, the people actually out there raising the animals, and they used their good old English words: cow, pig, sheep. But the new bosses, the French-speaking Norman lords who took over, well, they were the ones eating it at the high table, and they used their words: boeuf, pork, mouton. This simple dinner menu is a linguistic fossil, an echo of a conquered kingdom. So how in the world does a whole country end up with two different words for the same thing? Well, it all goes back to one single brutal event, a foreign invasion. And this wasn't just about changing the king on the throne. This was a complete cultural reset that would change England forever. Just think about that for a second.
This was the last successful foreign invasion of England. For almost 1,000 years since, no one has managed to pull it off. Not the Spanish Armada, not Napoleon, nobody. That really puts into perspective how absolutely monumental this event was. It was a true turning point in history.
The fate of the entire kingdom really came down to one single, incredibly dramatic year. It was a high-stakes showdown, all decided with blood and steel. On one side, you had a Saxon king defending his home. On the other, a Norman duke who was convinced that very same throne was his.
1066, that's the year. Remember that number, because everything we're talking about, the future of the language, the laws, the entire way society was set up, all of it was hanging in the balance right here.
So, it all kicks off with William, the Duke of Normandy. He was absolutely certain he was the rightful heir to the English throne. So he puts together this huge army and a fleet of ships and sails across the English Channel. His Norman forces smash into the Saxon army, led by King Harold, at the now famous Battle of Hastings. It was a brutal day-long slugfest, but the whole thing turned when King Harold was killed in the fighting. Just like that, the Saxon leadership collapsed. William marched to London, had himself crowned King of England, and would forever be known as William the Conqueror. But here's the thing. For William, getting the crown wasn't the end of it, not even close. It was about totally remaking the country in the Norman image. He and his followers started a systematic overhaul of English society, starting right at the very top and working their way down. And these changes were massive. First off, the entire Anglo-Saxon ruling class kicked out, replaced with Norman barons. Just like that, a whole new aristocracy. Second, they brought in totally new systems for government and social structure. And third, they brought their language, Norman French, and it became the new language of law, of power, of the royal court. And this is where it all comes full circle. Norman French became the language of the powerful. Over the next few hundred years, it started to mix and merge with the Old English that everybody else was speaking. And that mashup is what eventually became the modern English we speak today. So next time you order beef, just remember you're using the French word of the conquerors, and the farmer who raised the cow, he's using the Old English of the conquered. Both words and both histories survive. You know what's absolutely amazing? We have a visual play-by-play account of the entire invasion, told from the Norman point of view. It's called the Bayeux Tapestry. Now, it's called a tapestry, but it's actually a massive piece of embroidery. We're talking 230 feet long. It's basically a medieval comic strip that tells the whole story scene by scene. And the best part is, you can still go and see this incredible piece of history today.
But William the Conqueror's ambition didn't just stop once he had England. Oh no, the Normans quickly set their sights on their neighbors, Wales and Scotland, though things turned out very differently in those places. The impact of the conquest began to ripple out, shaping not just an English story, but a British one.
They had to change their playbook. In Wales, the Normans went for a full-scale conquest. They had some success early on, building castles and taking land, but the Welsh fought back fiercely and over time won a lot of it back. Now, Scotland was a different story altogether. It was more about border fights and land grabs than an all-out invasion. The Normans took some land for sure, but they never conquered the country itself. Scotland remained independent. So when we put it all together, what's the real takeaway here? The Norman Conquest was so much more than just a single battle. It was the catalyst that shoved England, and by extension Britain, onto a completely new historical path, creating echoes that we can still see and hear to this day.
Ultimately, it really does boil down to this. The Norman Conquest was the last time a foreign army successfully invaded and conquered England. It was a single event that kicked off a cascade of changes in government and society, and yep, even in the words we use to order our dinner. And that leaves us with a fascinating final thought to chew on. Just imagine, for a moment, that things had gone the other way. What if King Harold had won that day? How different would our language be? Our laws? Our culture? It's a wild thing to think about, how so much of history can turn on a single moment.